All right, everybody, we are once again back at the Journey to Better studio. Mike Carbray joining us, PGA member, director of instruction at Butterfield Country Club, Golf Digest Best in State, JRAA Top 50, Teacher of the Year in our section, all of that good stuff. So, Mike, again, thank you for having us here. We're going to talk a little wedges today.
Absolutely.
So, obviously, a very important part of the game. You have a lot of really good players that have come through here. You work a lot on wedges.
Yeah. Wedges are so important. The scoring clubs from 40 to basically 110, 120 yards. They can be worked on indoors in the winter just as easily as you can outside in the summer. So one of the ways we do it is with our TrackMan Test Center, and we run people through that, all handicap levels. My top college players will do it on a regular basis. And the higher handicappers, it's also important for them. So it's not just specific to good golfers. Everyone can benefit from being a better wedge player.
Yeah, these are the scoring shots. These are the ones that, hey, you hit a good drive, but it doesn't mean a whole lot if you can't put a short iron or a wedge on the green and take advantage of it. So, So you mentioned you use the test center.
Absolutely.
So what are you trying to achieve with the test center when you have people going through this?
So part of it is just a self-awareness of knowing where you are as a wedge player. So we'll set the distance. Usually I like to do kind of like a 50 to 100 yard distance. And players will hit shots, and it gives a handicap or what you would be with those scores. So, and then it gives something, a benchmark that you can continue to work on. A lot of people will just go out and hit wedges, and you don't know if you're getting any better other than maybe hitting one close on the 14th hole one day. But here you have some hard numbers to back up what work you're doing.
And then I think, importantly, as you go forward, you'll know if you got better.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're going to go test center, so this is more, hey, let's just see where you currently are at. We're going to benchmark it. So
Absolutely.
What does that test center test look like for you if you're going to do wedges?
So if we can go set one up if you want.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so it's real simple. So we just come in here, test center, hit that. And so I have a bunch that I already have made up, but if we wanted to make a new one, we just hit create new, give it a name. We'll just go Scott.
Sweet.
And then we can hit add target. And I like to randomize my distances, so it's going to give a bunch of different distances. So we're going to set the parameters of, we'll say 50 to, let's work on 50 to 80 yard shots. And we'll just hit save. And then we can put how many shots we want to hit. So obviously the more shots you hit, the better understanding or truer the test is. But just for this test, let's do 6 shots. And then we're going to randomly put the order in. We can come over here and repeat how many targets we want if we wanted to. So you could either save it or start it.
Okay.
So we're just going to go ahead and start this thing. So you can hit a couple warm-up shots. You want to hit one just to kind of get a feel?
We'll hit one.
All right.
We'll go for that 50. Oh, yeah, nice and good.
Okay, and so it'll give you some numbers down below.
Okay.
And then we're going to get going on this baby.
Okay.
And so it shows you, right there, it shows you your first distance of carry, okay? So it's going to give you a score out of 100 on how close you can hit it to that carry distance and how close to the center line you can hit.
Okay.
I always keep this screen up just so my students don't know what their score is.
Okay.
I want them focusing more on the distance. Sometimes you get high school kids in here and they hit a couple bad shots and they see their number drop and they kind of give up on it. So I try and don't bring the score up till the end.
Nice,
all right?
I like that,
so,
yeah. Okay.
So go ahead and give it a shot.
Let's see, 75. I definitely need work on this. Let's see if I got enough. Ooh.
There you go, pretty good. So you can see on the bottom, carried 74, distance from the pin 7 feet. Gives you a score of 92. That's really good.
So we need our 73 here, huh? Let's see if I can just do it again. Ooh,
That's not too bad. And Scott's using my wedge here, so it's even harder on him.
Probably making it a little easier for me.
He's got clubs, foreign clubs, 56.
That might be a little deep. Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
And so you can kind of see, you get a little bit of frame of reference of previous shots help you on the future ones.
I don't think I went harder. I do what my students do all the time. I went less on a shot I need to hit farther.
Okay.
That's always a good one.
All right.
All right, 73. So one of the things, and you tell me what you think, but one of the ways I like to regulate distance is not necessarily like trying to mash it harder. I try to just go back farther and kind of keep a good tempo, I guess you would say, especially on these feel wedge shots.
Right, yeah. So, when you're hitting wedge shots, I think it's different, and higher handicappers don't totally grasp this. We don't want this ball rocketing off of there. We want this ball coming off soft. These are control shots, so we need to be able to control what we're doing. So there we go. We had 6 shots, gives you a score of 61.3 out of 100. You can flip over here and kind of get an idea, and it kind of gives you like a relative handicap. All right, so it's a little vague, but we can say, okay, if that was what you did for wedges, you're maybe a 14 handicapper.
Right. And that's helpful because, if my goal is, let's say I want to be a scratch, well, obviously that's not going to match up
absolutely
to my ability. So,
yeah.
Right.
And we find out where your strengths and weaknesses are as a golfer, because if you're a 15 handicap and you do awesome on these wedges and you're like a 5, then I know, okay, there's another area in your game that we need to work on.
And you can set up a test in that area
Absolutely.
and all the areas,
Yeah.
right?
All right.
So I got to work on my wedges because that's not very good for me, I would say. So what would you typically do then? We figure out, all right, we go to the test center, wedges aren't very good. What would kind of that next step be?
So then we're going to flip over, we're going to get out of test center, and then we're going to go over to the virtual side, and I really love this target practice range, and pop over here. And this basically gives you any shot you really want to work on. So a lot of my lessons, I'll start here, and I'll have, I think the 50-yard shot, getting comfortable with that is great for everyone. So a lot of times this is where our lessons start, hitting a bunch of 50-yarders.
Nice.
If you're a new student, I want to see what your understanding of that is. But my recurring students, guys I teach all the time, this is basically where we start.
Nice.
So you can see there's a bunch of different greens there, and you can pick out set distances. So if we wanted to say, okay, 70 yards, there's a 70-yard shot to that flag. You can go, if you pick a different one, there's 90 yards, and hit select. And then we can select our position. We can move our ball over to here. And now we have a 70-yard shot over water to a front pin.
Okay.
All right, so let me throw up a marker. You might not be able to see that.
There we go.
There we go.
Cool.
All right.
And so what you're trying to do, so right off the bat, it's like, all right, hey, use the tests and use your skills apps, your test centers, all those as your benchmarking, but we're not going to be practicing that shot on a test.
Right.
Right? Like I could see a lot of things happening, like you said, your high school kids or, just anybody. If you're trying to work on something, let's say, and it's just beating you down, saying like, hey, you stink, like your scores are dropping like crazy, that's not going to help you build confidence in your ability to be able to learn the shot.
Sure.
So you get out here and...
Yeah, so we're going to get out here on a virtual golf course and hit some shots, and we'll look at some numbers. We're going to look at what our carry is, our distance from the hole, and we're going to flop back and forth. Maybe we'll hit 5 shots to this one, then we'll change our position, give a different yardage, because the learning happens quicker when we have some randomization in our practice, as opposed to just standing here and say, okay, you struggled on that 57-yard shot, let's just hit 50 of those.
Right.
All right, so we're going to kind of randomize what we're doing, bounce around, hit some of these shots.
Okay, so as I'm hitting these, any tips on what I should try to feel? Like, let's say I hit one here, okay, so I hit one. what are some of the things that I might want to pay attention to? Obviously, it went a little left, but
Right.
what else would I take into account maybe as
Well,
I'm learning these?
I mean, just far as technique goes, I mean, what you see is in all good wedge players is they don't have a tremendous amount of hinge or long backswing. Everything is played with, you know, kind of a very limited wrist set. They're controlling the speed and the length, which is helping them control the distance. And when they do that, the face and the angle and the dynamic loft stays pretty constant.
Okay.
So I would say those would be one thing I see when I get people that struggle with wedges, get a little too hingy, get a little too long, kind of slow down, can't control the speed at the bottom.
So try to deliver it the same way,
Absolutely.
but focus on how far back and the speed of that swing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's kind of the adjusters as we go. I definitely did a little less hinge there, and I controlled the face better,
There we go. That
and
was
then a lot better.
Better result. Yeah.
So then I would just keep, like you
Yeah,
said,
so
just keep judging it off of that. Hey, go
We'd hit
little
a
less.
couple like that and say, okay, that was pretty good. And then we'll say, okay, Scott, let's try something different. And we'll pop back over here. And we're going to go to, here's a 60-yarder. Okay, so now hit a couple of those.
And this one's got to go over the bunker.
Now we got an over the bunker shot.
Ooh, not bad.
All right, that worked out.
Nice
You
friendly
know,
bounce.
So we would spend 15, 20 minutes working on this, or more, depending upon what kind of level of golfer you are.
Yeah.
But you know, my better players, my scratch guys, my competitive players, they're going to spend a ton of time in this world right here.
And you're working on, I mean, yeah, you're working on a specific shot kind of category in the wedges, but like you said, it's still, hey, make good contact, make sure you have a good low point, make sure you have good dynamic loft. You know, I'm still working on controlling the face. Everything is still happening.
Right.
And actually, it almost feels easier because we are going slower.
Right.
We're not going and hitting a driver doing this where, you know, at 100 miles an hour, it's kind of hard to feel.
Absolutely, and that's how you develop the feel. You know, so one of the things with the better players, I'm looking for a consistent launch angle, you know, 25 to 30 degrees. And when you do that, that usually produces the most amount of spin.
Right.
So you're controlling your distance and you're controlling your rollout as well. So
We're going to try that right
Yeah.
now. Let's see.
So-
So that one was too high, 37.
that was too high. So yeah, so that just goes to a little less hinge.
And it was 55.
Little bit more, yeah.
Okay, so let's go lower. And that didn't
Good.
hit the ceiling.
Right.
I hit it a little harder.
A little bit, right.
But I launched it lower. I mean, that goes
Right.
to the distance thing we talked about earlier is, hey, you hit it lower, you're going to crush it farther.
Absolutely. And so that's perfect launch angle right there.
And then the
And you
spin
can
went up
s-
1,200
right, You can
RPMs.
see the spin jumping up a bunch.
there you
So, so that's what, you know, I try and make sure those guys are working on. So when we see kind of from the previous videos we did, you can refer back to those. But if you're in a simulator and your wedges are smashing the ceiling, clanking around, you know that that dynamic loft is too high. You know that your launch angle's too high. Your low point could probably be behind. All of those things, so you can take a look at those videos. But the best wedgers in the world all launch it relatively low.
You bring up a great point because I get a lot of people that'll be like, hey, I'm 8 feet from my screen. What are we at here, like 10, 12?
This is about 12 feet.
12. And you saw that wedge I hit there hit, you know, maybe here.
Right.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And I get people all the time, they say, oh, you're, you know, 8 feet away. Like, how do you not hit that over the roof, you know, of your simulator? It's like,
Right.
well, if you are, we probably need to work on that.
Right, you got some issues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so.
So, and it's a lot of times it's as simple as that. Is I'll just tell people, hey, look, you can't get your ball to hit the ceiling. You got to get your ball. Figure out how to get your ball to hit the screen and in that area, and they'll figure it out. I'll give a couple little key, you know, tips here and there, but that's the window you want to be launching it in if you want to maximize your spin and control.
Very cool. So you come over here, you work on these little keys. You might give them a key for them to work on as the instructor, but then after that, it's back to the test center.
Absolutely. Yeah,
See what
we
you
got to
learned.
see if we're improving. So then we would flop back, go over to the test center, try it again, maybe change the numbers around, the distances around, or keep the same test, whatever you want, because in the test it's going to be randomized. So
Right.
you know, if you hit 173 and 175 right now, the next test might say 78 and 71. So you know, so it's in a range, but that's how you benchmark what you're doing and how you're improving.
And that's a never-ending process, right?
Absolutely.
If you get your goal, do it again. Try to get better.
Right.
See what you can do. I think that's another thing. So that was a really good look into kind of the practice. Not only some technique stuff there, but really that process of what practice looks like as you're going to improve, especially in a specific area of the game. Again, you could do this for any area of the game. You could set up a driving test, you could do long irons, you could do mid irons, whatever you want to do.
Right.
But the process is basically going to be the same.
Yeah.
As you go.
Same thing. So you can do the same thing if you want to work on mid irons. You can test your range. Say your 8 iron goes 140 yards. You can make a test of 130 to 150 and do that, and then come out to a green. You know, a lot of times I'll just put a 150-yard green and say, okay, let's see how many out of 10 how times you can hit the green. And you know, for an average golfer, that might only be 2. And then next time we're going to say, okay, let's see if we can get it to 3 or 4 and move on from there.
Very good.
So yeah, so the practice ability of this indoors in the winter is awesome.
It's really changed a lot. Almost where you almost want to practice this stuff indoors, even if you can go outside sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, very cool. So Mike, thank you for that. Thank you for showing us your process, how that works. Hopefully this helps all of you at home with improving your game, specifically wedges, but again, use this on all of your game. And make sure you head over, check out Mike on Instagram. I'll link all of his stuff down below, his website as well, if you're interested in checking him out. Make sure you go over and do that. He has a lot of great info for you that he's putting out. So Mike, thanks again for having us, and we look forward to hopefully being back sometime.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks.